Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be going over Gold Mythic Anniversary Maggie, who is going to be an Ultra Token Wheel fighter coming to RTS. Now visually she is very in line with the other Anniversary character we have, which is Glenn. As you can see on the left hand side, makes it perfect sense. On the right hand side we can see a kind of visuals in a bit more detail. She's got a shield on her back, kind of what we saw on Glenn's art. She has got a shotgun with a little heart on it, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The prison getter, I like it. She's got the 8 on the helmet and on her breastplate, just basically showing that the fact that it's the 8th anniversary. On the left-hand side, we see the art in a bit more detail. It is pretty much exactly the same art as Glenn's, except Glenn is now kind of more crouched down, and Maggie is kind of more, you know, a bigger part of the profile. Kind of cool on the visuals that obviously sharing it. I think in the prison, they did kind of get overwhelmed at points by walkers, so yeah, I can't imagine they're just like getting bombarded by walkers at the moment. But yeah, kind of cool. The visuals, great, and I think a great duo for the anniversary event. If we look at the levels and so on and so forth on this character, at level 1440 limit break 3, she has got 39,685 attack, 22,047 defense, and 26,457 HP. She is going to be a tough character holding that gun. She is an attached shotgun. Damage roll character, of course a gold mythic, and going to be the second character to join the Prisoner's Allegiance. Now first of all, we'll check out her adrenaline rush, and it is called Knockout Slugs. It's a 55 AP cost rush. Stun a line of enemies for 1 turn if they have 60% or more of their max HP. Make a critical attack against that line of enemies for 400% damage each. So this is of course pretty decent. The stun comes in first, will disable weapons, and then obviously the damage will come afterwards. And she can potentially get multipliers on this because of that weapon that was in one of the previous League stores that did bonus damage against characters that were stunned. So she's going to be able to get the bonuses there because this is a crit attack. And it's actually kind of interesting. She is a leader, so potentially her weaponry is going to be a bit limited, but that is just worth noting. Okay, so we have the adrenaline rush here of Maggie. We can target the top line and do the adrenaline rush. You can see the stun comes in first, and then the damage comes in afterwards. There is potential that the crits can be resisted, which is what just happened there. The tank did resist the crit, but if obviously it crits, it does amplify damage. So generally speaking, it could be worthwhile going for crit set on this character. Again, worth noting, all weapon effects should work on this character. They are crit hits. Even if they do get resisted, they can still proc the weapon effects. Things like double attack, rampage, so on and so forth. But like I said, she's a leader. It's up to you what you want to do there. If we look at the upgrades on the Adrenaline Rush, she has got an upgrade at grade 2 where she attacks a line of enemies. So initially it probably has a single target attack, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. At grade 4, the AP cost gets reduced to 55 from 66. This is actually pretty decent. You could potentially just run a stats weapon on her. She doesn't necessarily need AP on attack. It really depends on the signature move, you know, initial turn and cooldown. And most of the time they're turn 1 at the moment. Limit break 1, we have plus 150% damage on the rush. So it will go from 250 damage to a line of enemies each to 400% damage to a line of enemies each. Then at limit break 3, it gets an upgrade where it will stun the line of enemies for 1 turn if they have 60% or more of their max HP. You could see this part as quite important. There are a lot of 60% weapons out there where it obviously is going to you know, reduce your chance of actually hitting that character or increase your chance of getting stunned or something like this. However, there is a downside where if someone has got like defense while stunned, they will get a boost to their defense on this. So it's a little bit of a balancing act on this particular upgrade. To counter that, like I said, you could potentially use that weapon from the previous League store. So yeah, the rush, it gets a thumbs up from me, but probably just the single thumb, just one. Now as we move on to the signature move, it is called Shield Buster. It has an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. Make a critical attack against an enemy for 350% damage, plus 1 attack if the enemy has bonus HP. Now, this is of course pretty good. There is a reasonable amount of bonus HP out there. This is again something that can crit on both of those attacks. and it is +1 attack of 350%. Just so we're clear, it isn't +1 stat. When I first read it, I was like, that doesn't seem very good, but it's actually an extra attack in total. So yeah, it can potentially be really, really good. Even 350% damage off of turn 1 on a SIG is very high. And again, like I said, amplifiers can come in on the weapon because it can crit. But having 2 attacks, yeah, a character's potentially in a lot of trouble. If you have a double attack weapon even, you have a good chance of one of those 2 attacks double attacking as well. So yeah, pretty decent. Amplify it as you wish. We'll have to test this out, of course. Okay, so we're going to attack with Maggie, and we're going to do the signature move off of turn 1. And we are coming up against a team that has some bonus HP. I'm going to use the attack on Nor in the bottom right-hand corner. And then, obviously, we'll see if we can, A, take her out. And if we do take her out, does the second attack go to another character if they have camouflage, which is what the case is at the moment. First attack comes in, and the second attack will go to another character when they have camouflage. This is actually pretty interesting. I know some characters can have this happen, but it looks like Maggie is one of those characters. So going straight into the upgrades, we can see at grade 3, this signature move gets plus 150% damage. So it goes from 200% damage to 350% damage. That is a significant boost, but it only requires 1 copy. Then at grade 5, which is 2 copies, you can upgrade it where it gets plus 1 attack if the enemy has bonus HP. This is very important and very powerful at the same time. Then at limit break 2, we have probably the most important upgrade, -1 to starting cooldown. So it goes from a turn 2 starting cooldown down to a turn 1 starting cooldown. Like I say, this one is very important. You want to get this off as early as you can in the fight. The damage is very significant and obviously can be amplified because it can crit. I give this one a big thumbs up. I would say the third slot being extra damage based on the enemy's HP is almost a must because you get bonuses off of turn 1 with the signature move. You also get bonuses off of doing the adrenaline rush, you know, if they're characters that can be stunned. So you're going to stun them and do the boosted damage as well. So it just seems all round the best third slot to go with. Maybe there's going to be like a special weapon that comes out in the future that has like an improved version for tough characters like we've seen from other traits. But I digress. We'll look at the weapon a little bit later. The signature move is nice. It is going to do significant damage. It is a little bit random on after that first attack. If you do take someone out, the other attack could potentially go to someone that's more problematic that you don't necessarily want to hit generally. But like I say, I think there are other parts of Maggie's kit which are going to make this less of an issue, especially off of turn 1, just to keep that in mind. But the damage is nice, and the full potential with the extra attack and the weapon and so on and so forth, even better. Now Maggie, of course, is going to be the Ultra Anniversary character. That does mean we're going to be giving away some Ultra Mythic tokens. We're going to be giving away 10,000 to 1 lucky winner. And all you have to do is type in the chat as part of a comment the word prison, because these characters are from the prison. I'm sure there's some very, interesting ways you could use that in a sentence. I've got already some guesses in my head, but you can use the word prison as part of a sentence. You'll enter yourself into the giveaway. Best of luck if you enter. Now back to the video. Checking out Maggie's mythic abilities now, of course her passive, she has got agility, which will increase her basic attack damage. This will work on her adrenaline rush, her signature, and her basic attacks. This is great. This will work 100% fine. I would definitely upgrade this. Then in the second slot, she's got one called Partnered Power. Now this does work very interestingly. I'll read through it bit by bit. 15% attack, so she gets that no matter what. When Anniversary Glenn is on the team, this fighter gets an additional 15% attack, so she gets an extra buff. But then when he's on the team, Glenn also gets that attack buff that Maggie gets, so she will in turn buff Glenn back. So Glenn is actually getting a buff out of Maggie being on the team. This is actually really interesting. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how many copies of this character you need to get this passive, because this could be quite free to play accessible. If you can get 1 copy and you get this passive, it massively boosts the free to play character in Glenn, and you get what I would think is going to be Maggie's highlight, which is coming later on in the video. The next passive is called Powerful Rounds, and you get plus 50% crit damage multiplier. This is obviously fantastic. All of her stuff can crit. It will stack with the crit set on the combat mods. It will also stack with the crit multiplier mod in auxiliary. so she could get massive amplification on her crits. This is absolutely fine when it comes to a passive hit. And then last but by no means least, she has got taking advantage. At the start of each wave, this fighter gets 40% attack. That increases by 25% each turn for the rest of combat. This obviously is really good. This does mean her signature move will be boosted straight away. That 350% will always have a 40% damage, attack multiplier on it. Then the next turn, she'll obviously get a bigger boost for a basic attack, which will be 65%. And then on her actual rush turn, she'll have a 90% attack boost. Obviously, if you have a speedier team or speed her up with things like Laura and so on, she won't get the buffs, but you're obviously doing that damage earlier, so you're kind of determining that it's better to do the damage earlier than get effectively a bit of a boost on the attack. I like this a lot, especially because she is a damage dealer, and kind of like Shane with the last anniversary, damage dealers, I think, need specialist skills to be really good, and because she's a leader, she's missing out on that. But now she almost has like an honor roll with this boost, which is obviously really, really good. She's just going to continuously get attack. I like this a lot, like I say. So if we look at Maggie's attack stat right now, she has got 92k. This is with the base 15% that she's going to get from her passive. But if we add Glenn to the team, she'll get another 15% plus Glenn will get the extra stat back that Maggie's getting. And now you can see Maggie now has 105,000 attack and Glenn has 114,000 attack. If I was to take Maggie out of the team, just to check basically how much his stat would drop, it would drop by nearly 30,000 damage. She's going to add a massive amount. And this is without combat mods. This is without 1535 multipliers. The attack stats are going to be very high on these two characters. And it looks like they're going to work very well together. Now, we're going to just check out how this attack boost works in various scenarios. The first scenario is just going to be, does it go up by 25% per turn? I'm pretty sure it does. We're just going to hit the defend action. And you can see we get to the next turn and we have 65% attack. I'll do it again just to see. And it should be now 90% attack. It's just going to add 25% each turn. Now we'll move straight into the upgrades on these passives, and you can see at grade 1 she gets the first half of partner power. This is the buff with Glenn, where it'll be 7.5% attack for Maggie herself, plus 7.5% additional attack if Glenn is in the team, plus Glenn gets those buffs too. Then at grade 2, agility 1 comes in, giving it 10% increase to basic attack damage. Then at grade 3, partner power 2 comes in, giving 15% total attack stat to Maggie. Then an additional 15% if Glenn is in the team, and then again, Glenn gets both those buffs if he's in the team, obviously. Now, this is great because you only need one copy to get this buff as a free-to-play, and then you're going to be able to boost Glenn's attack stat up drastically. Now, we'll move on to another reason why it's good to get one copy, but this is potentially one. Then we'll go on to the next two passives. It's Powerful Rounds Part 1 at grade 4. And it's going to be a 20% critical hit multiplier. Then, Taking Advantage at grade 5, at the start of each wave, this fighter gets 10% attack that increases by 25% each turn for the rest of combat. This is where that first part comes in. Moving on to the limit breaks, we'll get the second half of agility at limit break 1, going up to 20% increase basic attack damage. This is obviously really good on Maggie. Some characters don't always utilize the actual basic attack boost on all of their kit, but Maggie does, which is great. At limit break 2, the second half of Powerful Rounds comes in, making it a total of 50% critical damage multiplier. This is just going to increase the damage that she does on her crits, and she crits everything pretty much. And at limit break 3, finally, Taking Advantage 2 comes in, where at the start of each wave, this fighter gets 30% attack that increases by 25% each turn for the rest of combat, making it 40% initial attack. This buff is obviously great, but it is actually kind of cool to see that even if you get the characters grade 5, they will always get that initial buff, and then obviously every turn they'll get 25% extra. It just won't be as powerful from the get-go. So even a grade 5 Maggie is still pretty good by the looks of things. I think her passives work very nice. I like the fact that she teams up with Glenn so heavily. It doesn't just buff her, it also buffs Glenn. But if you don't want to use Glenn in the team, she's still going to get a boost from that passive. So it definitely still is worth upgrading. Even a 15% personal attack boost is nice for sure. So yeah, I like the passives. They work very well with Maggie's kit and also bring in some attack team synergy as well. Now this is the bit you've all been waiting for, because getting her to grade 5 is not just good based on her passives. You can get the leader skill even just with one copy. And the leader skill is very, very interesting. It is all teammates get 100% counter damage reduction for 2 turns and 40% attack. This means off the first 2 turns, you can attack someone who has payback or bide or anything like that, and you will not have any damage taken by this character or any other characters. And this is why I said she could potentially be bringing things like Rampage back. You could see people just commanding someone like Lily off of turn 1 just to try and blow up an entire team, which is kind of what a lot of people hoped that she'd be able to do when she was kind of introduced, but obviously never was able to do that because of the Vengeance and stuff that basically was introduced at the same time. There will be some need for heavy stun or heavy disarm, but there are characters out there that can do heavy disarm and heavy stun, so this is actually pretty good. It does mean that you don't necessarily have to use camouflage in your team, as long as you can nuke very early on in the fight. This is going to be enough to stop those paybacks from going off. Again, like I say, very, very powerful indeed. So as we attack, you can see that my attack team does have this counter damage reduction. You can kind of see it rotating on my players, my characters. It's the shield with like the bouncing off the shield. On the defense team, we have a full team pretty much of paybacks, vengeance, and all the nasty stuff. A character like Lily was the one I was talking about, kind of did get countered by the fact that vengeance was just so dominating, whereas now off of turn 1 you obviously have to build a team a little bit because she does lack the AP, which I've managed to pick up. She do some attacks. You can see some bide attacks are going to come back, but they're going to get blocked. If I command her to give her a rush, she can just nuke. And obviously the high stats on this weapon, character that you build with the weapon and so on and so forth, her base weapon is amazing. You're going to be able to just potentially nuke an entire defense team. Their weapons will be very important though. The animations on the counter damage reduction is a bit non-stop with the zeros, but it can be pretty crazy. And obviously this is going to work on any character on an attack team. I just used Lily as an example because she was the one who just did so many hits, had an improved rampage, and she would never really could get used to the highest level until now. That is obviously great for Lily, great for all damage dealers out there, and great for attack teams, honestly. Maggie, I think, will be very, very welcomed addition by a lot of players out there based on how crazy these defense teams are constantly. Now, the last thing in Maggie's kit is going to be her weapon, and it is Anniversary Maggie's Sword of Riot Shotgun. It has got 40% attack, a huge bonus to AP when attacking, improved splash damage when attacking, 60% chance to deal 120% damage to all enemies adjacent to the target. And then in the last slot, it has improved rampage. Critical attacks hit 2 other enemies on the same side of the battlefield for 175% damage. So she has got a full nuke weapon, but if she is the leader, you might want to go with a 1535 on her to improve, the damage of adjacent characters. But you might just want to go for full nuke. She potentially can nuke herself. You don't necessarily have to go with someone like Lily. Her attack stat will probably be higher as a leader, as a latest generation of Mythic character with the improved stat. She's got nearly 40,000 attack. Also, the fact that she's going to get that attack buff of turn 1, so she's going to have very high attack stat for sure. But you can switch this weapon as you wish. I would obviously just raise it to 55%. Utilize it only if you want to. It's completely optional. So this was Gold Mythic Anniversary Maggie, and she is going to be an attack leader, and a very, very good one at that. Very useful against what has been the dreadful counter damage meta that's been around pretty much since PK came out, and that was over a year ago now. Yeah, it's been brutal. We've had a bunch of these sort of characters pop up, but Maggie should be able to suppress those characters at least. Do tell me your thoughts on Gold Mythic Anniversary Maggie. Are you going to try and get even as little as 1 copy to get that leader skill, to get the boost with Glenn? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for tuning into my video. Best of luck if you enter the giveaway, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.